Town Board meeting. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Jeff Renahan, First Ward. Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Ann Berger, Third Ward.
Michael Safone, Fourth Ward.
Stefan Krakauer, Fifth Ward.
Ann Shushin, Sixth Ward.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, Attorney for the Town.
Megan Clementi, Vanderwater and Vanderwater.
John Bailey, Town Supervisor. Welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. On tonight's agenda, the first item on the agenda is a public hearing, Town Code Amendment, short-term rentals. 2 is a public hearing, Town Code Amendment relating to food trucks. 3 is a public hearing, Town Code Amendment relating to peddling and soliciting. 4, public hearing, Town Code Amendment relating to community events, formerly circuses and carnivals. 5 is a resolution for zoning map amendment for Lakeview Luxury Apartments, 2633 South Road. 6, accept the resignation of Madalena LeBron, part-time clerk in the Comptroller's Office. 7, waive the 30-day liquor license for Monarca Mexican Restaurant, 842 Main Street. 8, approve the Arlington Business Improvement District concert on June 2nd. 9, a resolution zoning text amendment, South Hills Center District, self-storage facility, South Hill shops at South Hills. 10, set a public hearing for Town Code Amendment to Chapter 210, RE Animal Services. 11, approve the 2023 Town Board meeting minutes. 12, acknowledge Vassar College Office for Public Parking. 13, a resolution, 1 Dutchess Avenue Sewer Transportation Corp. B, Water Transportation Corp. 14, a resolution, engineer and RFQ designation. 15, we have 2 special consents. SC1, town clerk to advertise for bid for the police department. The cleaning service. SC2, ratify the commencing lawsuit, retain attorney, Town versus South Road Hospitality LLC, Palisades Estates EOM et al. Versus the City of Rockland et al. And we have an SC3 to add to the McDonald Run in the Village of Wappingers, the Town of Poughkeepsie. I'd like to make a motion to add SC3 to the list.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
And with that, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for any item on the agendas. This does not include any of the public hearings, so if there's any items from number 5 down, it's your chance to speak. Doreen?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to make a comment about agenda item number 5, the zoning map amendment for Lakeview Luxury Apartments. Yes, that's where the old Econo Lodge is. And I know that there was a wetland on the project site. And when I looked at the environmental assessment form, it says it's 1 acre of wetland. But when I looked at the National Wetlands Inventory Mapper, it says that it's 2 acres. So since we keep talking about protecting resources, and there's the open space map and the natural resources inventory, just wanted to bring that to the board's attention, that there is a discrepancy in the size of the wetland, and they will need an aquatic resource permit as it is. So I would just like to make sure that that is addressed when, well, actually before you rezone. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Motion to resume the rules?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Somebody else.
Georgette, you still there?
Georgette Martin, did you want to speak? Sorry.
Where'd she go? Oh, yeah, she's got her hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead,
You can hear
Georgette.
me now?
Yes, we can.
I would like to speak on the short-term rentals. We'll have a chance at the end of the meeting.
There's a public hearing on that. As soon as they
Yeah.
open it, you can speak.
Georgette, that'll be our
Oh.
public hearing. That'll be the first one we'll have in a second.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
No.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Not, motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to open public hearing number 1, Town Code Amendment, short-term rentals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Georgette, you might as well be the first one to speak.
Thank you. Well, first off, I want to echo the sentiment of a lady in a previous meeting that was saying, that she was really impressed with some of these rules for the short term. Like, they shouldn't, create a public, hazard or nuisance or other conditions which negatively impact the use or enjoyment of surrounding properties, or threaten the peace and good order, quality of life in the surrounding community, and et cetera, et cetera. And then in a previous meeting, there was a young man there that was saying, you know, the B&Bs won't be having big beer crawls or big parties, actually comparing that to the Fairview area rather. And I would just like to say, as wonderful as these conditions are for the short term, it is actually a slap in the face to the people of the area where the students are, because we have for 10 years been asking the council and the police for help, and we're still at square one trying to get help, getting these kids under control and returning the quality of life of this neighborhood. And that's all. That's basically what I want to tell you. I know you know it, but I want to go on record as saying that.
Georgette, what I can tell you is the same committee that worked on the Airbnb is also working on streamlining college housing as well. They're working on it right now.
Well, Mike, in all respect, we wanted to have a neighborhood meeting last year, and you told me last summer that they were working on it. So we're going into 1 year, going into 2 years on this. How long does it take?
I understand that, but they had to finish the Airbnb first. And
Is that finished?
It just takes time. So I like some of the rules they have in this. I think it's going to tighten up a lot of things, and I think when we apply that to the college housing, it'll work.
Well, I hope so, because, you know, I have a friend that went to Albany U, and we've only been dealing with this 10, 15 years, but he said the student housing up there has been a long time, and he said it's a student ghetto because all the residents have moved out. And I can see that happening here. I mean, you have an opportunity to maintain the flavor of this neighborhood instead of let it become a one big party street. But
Well, I think we've shrunk the college housing, and the police have tightened up quite a bit this year. I could talk to you offline about a couple things. Things happen after that I can't go into detail right now, but I will talk to you offline if you'd like. I'll give you a call.
Okay.
All right?
okay, thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Is there anybody else that would like to discuss? Doreen?
Well, Mike, you talked about the code update committee. Well, I'd like to wish Georgette good luck with that, because as far as the code update committee, a year ago, and I brought this up before about the short-term rentals, the committee, and here's this, I'm quoting from a memo from Mike Welty to the town board, that the committee felt it was of primary importance to preserve the residential quality of neighborhoods, not to open the door to party houses. And it goes on, this is a quote, when someone purchases a property in a residential neighborhood to make it their home, they expect the residential character to remain and don't anticipate that the property next door will become a transient rental business. Therefore, all short-term rentals are required to be the primary residence of the owner. So that was very strongly stated a year ago, and now an about face has been done. And now in residential neighborhoods, you can have basically rental businesses. So, you know, I said that before as part of my public comment. I'm going to submit additional public comment. I do have a question though, as to why the latest code amendment has a section that says that it will take effect 6 months following filing in the office of the Secretary of State. Normally, it takes effect immediately, like the other 3 code amendments tonight for the food trucks, peddling, and community events. They all take effect immediately. So why is this one 6 months?
They have to get the applications, all that stuff in line, Doreen, and notify everybody's out there, collect all the information on who's out there once we get it done, and also, you know, make sure we can set up inspections and so forth. So it's gonna take a while to get that and all the fees in line also, so we were just given a time frame to get it all together.
Okay, so this isn't any form of grandfathering?
No.
Okay, so if we can be clear about that too, because at the last meeting where this was discussed, grandfathering was brought up. So I did not see that in here. So is there any grandfathering of existing rentals?
I did not see it in there.
Okay, I will take that as a no, it's not in there. Oh, and by the way, there's a discrepancy between what the resolution says and what the code says. The resolution for this says that the local law will take effect immediately upon filing, and the code amendment says it will take effect 6 months following the filing in the office of the Secretary of State. So there's a discrepancy there. And I also like to say that I am opposed to the removal of the 1 acre minimum requirement for unhosted short-term rentals. So that removal now allows unhosted short-term rentals in all zoning districts in the town. So, and I also consider that to be a significant change, and I really think that the public hearing should have been renoticed due to that change. So, and then the last thing is there's also just a numbering error in section 168.1-7, F, conditions and restrictions of permit, goes from number 13 to number 15, and that's on page 8 of 14 of the draft posted online. So again, I'm opposed to the removal of the 1 acre minimum. I think it should have been re-advertised. I don't know really why you need the whole 6 months, but Jay, you gave me the explanation. And again, it's very distressing that there's been a complete about face from what the code committee found a year ago and to what this law ended up being. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Is there anybody else? Sir, come on up.
How you doing, guys? So I guess, on the contrary, I think the new code is pretty on par. And thank you guys for, your work in each facet of it. I just have a question about the inspection. I didn't see anything in the code for inspection or fee or anything like that. And I remember the last meeting, that's kind of where we left off. And I just want to know if you guys had thought any more about it
I
or.
thought I read the inspection in here.
There was inspections.
Yeah.
It's inspections.
The fee will come out in the fee schedule when they get done, but there should be.
But there's nothing, which I'm fine with, so if that means there's no inspection.
No, there is an inspection. It's on page 6.
On page 6.
In submitting the application for issuance of a short-term rental period, the owner to a fire and safety inspection of the property by a town building inspector. That is in there.
So when you file for your permit, you're gonna have to have an inspection?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know. So how's this, differ from like, a normal rental property? Like, let's say I have a long-term rental, why would there not be an inspection there?
So that's not in our code. This is, what we do, on the other hand, we do inspections of every commercial property we have, like a hotel, which is along that line, so we do that in. But it cuts off somewhere, and we do the hotels on a 3-year basis for the permits, and the county does their actually sanitary inspections for that. Yeah.
But those are, you're saying commercial?
Yeah,
These are residential short terms.
being used for a commercial purpose, more or less, so they're doing the same as a hotel. Yeah. Long-term apartments are a little bit different.
Okay. I think that was it. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. Is there anybody else? Motion to close public hearing 1.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Carlos?
We'll start with number 1.
Yep.
Okay. Resolution number 1. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to a duly noticed public hearing held on April 12, 2023, April 19, 2023, and May 24, 2023, at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt a local law adding a new chapter, 168.1, entitled Short-Term Rentals, to the town code, amending chapter 210, entitled Zoning, to include related provisions for short-term rentals in section 210-9, 210 sub 55B, 210-92-02, and adding 210-105.1. And be it further resolved that in response to public comment, the town board made revisions to the proposed local law, and the final version of the proposed local law is annexed here too as Exhibit A, and incorporated herein as if it is recited verbatim. And the town board does direct that said local law be spread across the record as if it in fact had been read verbatim. And be it further resolved that the town board has previously declared its intent to act as lead agency under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and does declare said action to be a type 1 action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQA. And be it further resolved that the town board has reviewed the long environmental assessment form, EAF, prepared by the Director of Municipal Development, and hereby determines that the adoption of the hearing code amendment would not have a significant or adverse effect on the environment, and the supervisor is authorized to execute parts 2 and 3 of the EAF as drafted. And 3, a draft environmental impact statement will not be required for the reasons set forth in the attached. Determination of no significance, excuse me. 4, negative declaration is hereby issued, and be it further resolved that a written recommendation was received from the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development dated March 27, 2023, stating that the proposed amendment was a matter of local concern and offering minor comments on definitions that have been reviewed and accepted by the town staff and which have been incorporated into the local law. And be it further resolved that the written recommendation dated March 20th, 2023 was received from the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board, in which said board recommended adoption of herein amendments. Be it further resolved that the legal notice of a public hearing was posted on March 22nd, 2023, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on March 29th, 2023. And be it further resolved that the town clerk notify the clerks of the surrounding municipalities of the public hearing pursuant to General Municipal Law 239NN. And be it further resolved that said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
Excuse me, Mr. Carlos, do you want to amend the last line to change it from upon filing with the Secretary of State to be
6 months.
take effect 6 months after filing with the Department of State?
I feel I want to do that.
We have a second?
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Do we have a motion on the resolution?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Abstain.
Motion passes 4-2-1.
We didn't have a discussion on that, but that's right. I just want to say that I think the inspection part of private homes is overreaching, and I don't think it's appropriate. But
Who was the other name besides
I was.
Stefan? You?
I live in an area that's flooded with
Just checking.
students, and I think a residential home should stay a residential home. That's, this is unknown. I do like the fact that there were restrictions put on this, and I'm hoping the restrictions that went into this will go into college housing.
And could you tell me who seconded the amendment? Nobody. Moved by Bill.
I think Ann did.
Ann Berger did.
Okay.
And second.
And my take on this is a little bit different because I have purchased a house that is historic. It's from the late 1700s, and actually a flipper walked away from it. And if I hadn't stepped up and purchased it, the roof would have caved in, and it would have been caved in and gone. And this is a significant piece of our local history, and this is one way I can do to support this house, although I'm not going to be able to Airbnb it because we're only allowed 30 for the town, and certainly by the time mine is up and running, everybody else will have theirs in the place, so.
But each year
We
they
can
have to.
change it, we can change it.
No, it's each year if they renew, so if somebody drops out, yeah.
Right.
Or if we feel that it's working, we can change it. It's the number that we can
Okay.
change.
Should
it
have
for.
that discussion beforehand.
But,
We've already voted on
Yeah,
it.
and so were you abstaining since you owned a property? Was that your reason for
yeah, that's why I
abstaining?
abstained, because I have a property I'd like to Airbnb, although I'm probably gonna have to long-term rent it.
College kids.
Okay. On to public hearing number 2. I'd like to open public hearing number 2 relating to food trucks. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is anybody here to discuss food trucks? Public hearing number 2. Anybody? This is your chance to discuss the food truck public hearing. If not, a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
All right, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to a duly noticed public hearing held on May 24th, 2023 at 7 PM at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt the attached local law amending the town code by adding chapter 114 entitled Food Trucks. And be it further resolved that the proposed local law is annexed hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein as if recited verbatim, and the town board does direct that said amendments be spread across the record as if they in fact had been read verbatim. And be it further resolved that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on April 25th, 2023 and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on May 15th, 2023. And be it further resolved that the town board has previously declared its intent to act as lead agency under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and does declare said action to be a type 1 action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA. And be it further resolved that after reviewing the proposed local law and the annexed full environmental assessment form, full EFA, this board has determined that the adoption of this local law will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact, and it authorizes the supervisor or his designee to answer no to each of the questions on Part 2 of the EAF and to complete the Part 3 negative declaration. And be it further resolved that a written recommendation was received from the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development dated May 12, 2023, stating that the proposed amendment was a matter of local concern with comments. And be it further resolved that a written recommendation dated May 19, 2023 was received from the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board, in which said board recommended adoption of the proposed local law. And be it further resolved that the town clerk notified the clerks of the surrounding municipalities of the public hearing pursuant to GML 239-NN. And be it further resolved that said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
yeah, I've got some questions on this, because reading through it, it appears all the food trucks are required to get a license with the town clerk, but some are also required to get a permit from the zoning administrator.
That's for ones, from what I understand, that are gonna, like at Hudson Heritage, that are gonna actually have a spot. Or if somebody wanted to have a spot at, say, Price Chopper, or if somebody wanted to have a spot in somebody's private property, that requires more than me to license them for events.
It is actually in
So there's gonna be a
Hudson.
difference.
It's in Hudson Heritage zoning that they can have food trucks on their property.
Right, so, you know, and like, so like
So,
Plan B Brewery, those types of places that wanna have permanent.
So, but
Instead
is
of
it
just an
on the
event.
owner of the property, or is it on the food truck to get that permit?
I believe it depends, because they might need site plan, so I'm not 100% sure on that portion of it.
Because that sounds like that's
So-
in front of planning.
It would-
Mike can chime in.
Yeah, it would be the owner of the property. Thanks, Felicia. It would be the owner of the
Okay.
property. So again, if it's, let's say the Galleria decided that they wanted to have a food truck out there on a regular basis, they would get a permit for the summer, let's say, to have the food truck out there.
Okay,
Let's say they decided rather than doing that every year, they wanted to make that a regular feature of their site plan, then they would go to the planning board and get a site plan amendment. That's the difference.
so the food trucks themselves are just required to get a license from the town clerk. Okay, that's good.
Correct.
And also from reading this, it appears they're not allowed to just park on the road, which I think is a really good idea. That they're supposed to be off the road and on private property, or,
That's right, unless they're, an ice cream truck or
Well, yeah.
something that's kind of
Yeah.
on the move, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, here's my take. You can almost not put a food truck anywhere in town of Poughkeepsie right now.
Pretty much.
And so we're gonna further codify that and make it even more difficult. Everywhere else, they have food trucks. You go places, they have areas where food trucks are, they have food trucks that park, they have food trucks. We're gonna make it more difficult and less likely to have food trucks. The list of streets that's been in our code forever, it just kept getting longer and longer. And every time somebody parked a food truck, somebody came into the town and got that street added to the list because they didn't want it there
There's
being
never been
competed
any
with
food
something.
trucks allowed, really.
Right, but so what I'm saying is we don't allow food trucks in the town. We're gonna require them to get licensed and get zoning approval if they wanna park anywhere now, which means that we won't have food trucks in town. I think we should have a food truck ordinance, but I think we should figure out a way to encourage it, make it easier, not make it super complicated and almost impossible. And this list of streets, I think, needs to be revisited. South Road, North Road, New York State Route 9 is on the list of streets that you can't park a food truck. It's a major roadway. There are places where you could park a food truck, it would make sense, but we don't allow you to do it there. Route 44, Route 55, the eastbound arterial, New Hackensack Road, Spagnville
Yeah,
Road.
but
so-
I think that's what
that's
caused
on those
accidents.
roads, it's
No,
not
but
off the
here's the
road.
thing though, we don't allow them anywhere in our code the way it's
We didn't
written
allow them on private property, now we're allowing them on private property.
with zoning board approval. Like we're making this so complicated that it doesn't make sense.
It's actually with zoning administrator approval in most cases, if you're just getting a permit. It's only a site plan approval if it's a permanent fixture of your site plan. Let's say, again, Plan B Brewery was mentioned. A lot of breweries have food trucks on a regular basis. They might just want to make it a regular feature of their site plan so they don't have to come back every year and get an annual permit. So that's really up to them. But it is making it possible for the first time to have food trucks legally in the town on any number of places around the town. So actually, the opposite is
Other
true.
than just on these major roads, though. I
But
mean,
if you have to come in and get a permit and go through a process, then why restrict everything before you even come in?
But this
Why not?
isn't restricted.
It is. There's a whole list of roads where you
Yeah,
can't put
but
them.
that's on the road.
Yeah.
And you could come off any one of these roads and have it.
But we don't.
We're not blocking
Right-
traffic
right
on a
now-
major intersection, on a
Okay,
major road.
right now, the town of Poughkeepsie is very difficult if you want to have a food truck here because
Correct.
it's so restrictive. We're not changing any of that. We're adding more restrictions to it.
No.
I don't
No,
think
we're
so.
allowing you to go get a permit.
Like
The
right now,
clerk
they're
can
not
give you a
allowed in the
permit.
malls at all. They can't go in
They're
the
not allowed
malls.
anywhere.
And we've had multiple cases where they've come in for like South Hills Mall or the Galleria, and it's no. Where now, all they have to do is go down and see the zoning administrator, get an okay for a
For the
permit.
yearly permit.
So right now, if a food truck wanted to be in the town, where could it go?
Almost nowhere, if not nowhere.
Right, but
They really need to even have a license for me to do events.
So whenever
Because we
there's-
need to have the Board of Health.
Whenever there's a food truck in the town currently, without this change, they're in the town illegally and should be shut down.
Pretty much, unless they're at a town board approved event, which
And
is
the
why I do all the events.
And the only thing that this changes is they now have to get a permit, and if they get site plan approval, they could put it on a piece of property.
permanently for the year.
Right,
Yeah.
and they'll be on the list, so anybody that
They
has
wanna-
events, like Janet or anybody will know who's licensed and they can
Yeah,
be
I'll
at all
use-
these events. I think it's actually a much better thing.
I think if they have to come in through an approval process, that we should get rid of all these lists of where you can't do it, and then you
No,
have,
I
or clean it up to some extent.
I don't think so, because these roads would be a public
It's a
and
public
traffic
safety
safety
issue on
hazard.
any of these roads.
If you have a food
Sandock
truck
Road?
and somebody's driving by
It's
on
not
Route
by-
9 and they wanna stop,
Sandock
I mean,
Road
that's
is public.
creating a problem.
Yeah, I would think so.
County road.
It's county
Well,
road.
Stefan, along the line of what you say, I'm not disagreeing because the county's first comment was a 500-foot buffer from brick and mortar restaurant. And I saw this in the city where a lot of the breweries and the wineries all had a food truck outside. and
I mean, we had 500, they told
Yeah,
us to
don't-
change
I
it to
don't-
2.
I'm not saying I
Yeah, we did.
disagree with that, but I think that's something we should definitely look at going forward to make events like that different. Getting Plan B Brewery in places like that, I think is a start because they should be available. And I would assume that they'd want something permanently, like when Hudson Heritage come in, it's actually permanently in their zoning. I think they're all positives. And I think this 500-foot buffer is something that the
Do we
recommendation.
still have 500 feet?
No, you
No,
changed it.
this is the
200
county.
200 feet.
Can I just clarify something real quick? You're absolutely right about the county's comment. We'd actually started working with the county on doing a quick map exercise. We looked at the 500 feet and realized that was much too restrictive. And so, working with them again, that's why the version that you have in front of you has 200 feet. It also changes the way that that's measured to both clarify and to make it less onerous. So and there's a way out if you're too close to a restaurant, for example, but the restaurant doesn't care, you can just get a waiver from that provision and you'll be all set to go. So there's a few ways that works, but we did respond to the county's comments, and that's in the latest draft that you have in your packet.
Yeah, I like some of their comments. I mean, going forward, we should look at some of the other areas that are becoming very popular to bring them in. You know, not necessarily on a road, and maybe, you know, College View Avenue or somewhere like that.
I mean,
that we
even the
have some-
town can have a food truck festival,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
going forward, as long as we know.
I think
who's
this is a
licensed.
start, but I still think, along with Stefan said, we should definitely look at it and
Well, that's,
tighten it up.
my point is, if we're gonna do this, we should make it so that it works really well, so that we
Well, right
encourage
now, we
them.
have nothing. I think we should at least start with this, because there's been people
We don't.
calling and coming in for years that want
But-
food trucks, and I always have to say, no. It's crazy.
If Mike's college thing had to wait, because this had to get done, the idea that, well, this is good enough for now, like, it just should be done correctly, rather than just good enough for now.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's,
Stefan, you wanna table it? I don't wanna table it, I think it needs to be more flexible and more opportunity because of the fact that these are things that I think we want, right?
yeah, and I think the opportunity is there.
So we're not gonna vote?
No, hold on. I think the opportunity is there. What we're doing is we're asking people to come in and get a permit to where they're going to be. If they want to be there permanently, I think that's like, I didn't, really, Mike said, you know, if the gallery wants to have 2 or 3 of them there in the summer, they can come in and get a permanent spot, so they're not coming in constantly. Or make it easier. One of the other towns in the area, they picked 3 locations in the town, and certain places can only have a hot go-kart can be from 2 to 4, and then from 4 to 7, they have something else. They actually have to go all the way to town hall and apply for one of those 4 locations in their whole town to get hourly slots, which to me, I consider that cumbersome. I think the fact that they have to just come in, go downstairs and see zoning, is this an acceptable location, they can move forward. I think it's a, by far a start compared to the way we were locked out before. And looking at the traffic today, I'd be a little nervous with the Route 9 location. But see, Route 9, it says you can't be on Route 9, but it doesn't say you
Be in a
can't be in
parking lot off
Poughkeepsie
Route 9.
Plaza, you can't be in
Yeah,
ShopRite
that's-
Plaza.
That's the
Well, I
private
guess
that
that's the
we're-
question, so
You just can't be
Route
on-
9, Route 9 North Road,
They can't be on the road, like they can't pull off on the shoulder and just
Right.
open up. That's more like what it's geared for, Steph, on a lot of these roads, like on
We
44,
don't
is
wanna
they just
have a
can't
food
pull
truck
over
on
on the
Private
shoulder and
property,
open
they
up.
could be in it.
Yeah, they could go out here and go in the old diner lot or something like that, and they wanna set up for the day, they're just not on the road. They can't just go and pull off on the
well,
shoulder.
yeah, but then the 200 feet thing kicks in when you pull off the road, you get to
No,
that.
that's 200 feet from a restaurant.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying, that's what happens is when they pull off into the parking lot, then they're next to McDonald's
Yeah.
now, or they're next to
Yeah,
Umberto.
and that's up
That's
to
where
the-
coming in, we'll be able to look at it and
And
see
that's up
what's
to the
there.
property owners too, you know, whether they want them in there or not.
And the license is not gonna be as restricted, it's just to make sure everybody that's doing all the events, that we have their Board of Health and stuff like that. It's not,
Yeah, and I like the idea of Hudson Heritage actually put it on their plan, that they would have people rotating, the trucks will have a couple spots up there and they can actually rotate them.
Okay, now what happens if you have a construction site? Because like,
that's considered like a,
it was,
Canteen?
yeah.
canteen truck, and that's in
Yeah.
here too.
Oh, but no, they were permanently parked there because it was building the hospital, so they had this food truck in.
That was not supposed to be, but,
Okay,
you know,
so then they would need the permit and everything.
right, unless they just wanna be a typical canteen truck.
And that could probably be something that they come in under the food truck and
Right.
get it there for a permanent spot.
I mean,
for
you said it was
construction.
at the hospital, maybe because they had it on their site plan at a different spot, they just assumed it was
Well, no,
okay.
this was while they were under construction.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they
yeah,
had
I
convenient
understand.
food for their employees, for the workers.
I mean, I guess it's a start, I just think that we should try to figure out.
It's
ways
definitely a start, because
make
like when
it-
I tell you, it's been years that people have been coming in and I feel like a nasty old thing. No,
Right.
you're not
No.
allowed to do it, you're
Which
not
is-
allowed to do it, you're
right.
not allowed to do it, it's not.
But they do it everywhere.
We weren't
meaning-
even supposed to be doing it at schools or,
Most towns-
our code that we had was ancient.
Most towns still don't allow it. I will say the city is, I haven't looked at their code, but their code definitely allows it, like the wineries and different places that don't have restaurants, they do allow them actually to be on the street. So I think that's the one piece that we should look at to see if it ties into any locations. Like Eastdale's a prime example, but it's private property. You have other areas like that, you may want.
Yeah, and they
something
weren't
that-
allowed on private property, so every time Eastdale has done something, I've had to do an event permit to exempt them from the code, because they're not allowed on private property, so.
And they're the kind of
That's why
places-
we've always been doing
So
that.
this will allow them on private
Yes.
property
Yeah.
Yes.
with permission from the zoning
Yeah,
administrator.
yeah, no big process. It makes it easier. Yeah, like Eastdale, we won't be approving Eastdale for every event.
But currently,
And they'll have a
they're
list
on
of
private
licensed
property all the
people.
time.
No, they have to come for an event permit every time they go.
No, I
in.
know, but
Yeah.
in reality, they're on private
In
property.
reality,
Right.
there, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, so, if it'll make it easier, I guess, but I do think it's still restrictive.
We can definitely look at it deeper.
Okay, all right.
Because I actually think that they're great ideas. We've seen, food truck roundups and different things. I mean, have areas like that. I think they're great because it's a benefit because you've seen so many of these food truck people during the pandemic started with home businesses, went to food trucks, and they ended up
Right.
opening restaurants. So it's something you want to make it, look at the other town that had them. I thought it was very restrictive that, I think there was like 14 time
Right,
slots.
I mean, if we have a nice
that had
list of
one.
licensed ones, I mean, you could almost do like a food truck Friday at the parks and have
Well,
one different one at
And I
every park or
don't,
something.
I don't necessarily agree with the idea that a food truck is damaging a brick and mortar restaurant by being nearby. Sometimes it actually enhances it.
Sometimes.
When they have food trucks in an area in other communities, people come into that area. Some people go to food trucks, some people go to restaurants, they all seem to thrive. It doesn't seem to damage them. If your restaurant's not any good, you're probably gonna have a problem no matter what. But the food truck, I don't think is what kills it. All
That's
right.
why I looked at the counties when they had the feet. I think there's certain areas, and I'll use Arlington as a prime example. A lot of those smaller restaurants close at night. Doesn't mean that somebody in a food truck can't come in and set up in one of their lots, because again, if you get somebody who comes that's popular, it'll help.
Right.
I mean, so you're right, it is beneficial, it's something, and it's also beneficial to the people running the business, and we have a lot of food truck owners in the town that would love to be out and about.
Okay, all right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We'll save this and look at it. Make a motion open public hearing number 3, Town Code Amendment relating to peddling and soliciting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anybody here to discuss peddling and soliciting?
And again, this is just kind of cleaning up.
Be
I'll wait
resol-
to see if anybody speaks.
maybe
Yeah, close it first.
Does anybody want to speak to public hearing number 2 on peddling?
3.
3, sorry.
What's that saying about?
What is it changing?
It's taking out food trucks, or actually it's taking out,
They took out canteen trucks.
Right.
But, that was in this section as well. Mostly the requirements are pretty much the same, although we've cleaned up some of the language based
yeah,
on
some of the language.
Felicia's experience with it. But the biggest change was removing canteen trucks, which was the only type of food truck allowed in the town until this previous local law, and moving it out of there. So this one and the next one, they're all related to the food truck law as well.
Yeah, the application for a peddler used to ask your weight. I
Do we-
don't think that was appropriate.
Do we even have peddlers anymore?
We
Oh,
have
yeah.
quite a few.
We have quite a few.
Really?
You'd be
Wow.
surprised, you get like Verizon and all those go door to door. They're still peddlers. She gets quite a few a year that come in
Wow.
whenever there's a
Probably have
project going
20
on.
already.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on public hearing number 3? If not, make a motion. Close public hearing number 3.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Sifon.
Be it resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to a duly noticed public hearing held on May 24th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Overocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt the attached local law amending Town Code, Chapter 151, entitled Peddling and Soliciting. And be it further resolved, the proposed local law is annexed hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein as if recited verbatim, and the Town Board does direct that said amendments be spread across the record as if they in fact had been read verbatim, and be it further resolved that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on April 25th, 2023, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on May 15th, 2023. Be it further resolved that this action to amend the town code is a type 2 action under New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and therefore no further environmental review is required. Be it further resolved that the said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, the town board,
Nope. Make a
Sorry.
motion to open public hearing number 4.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody who would like to discuss circuses and carnivals, public hearing number 4? If not, motion to close public hearing number 4.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Greco.
be resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to a duly noticed public hearing held on May 24, 2023 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Overock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt the attached local law amending Town Code Chapter 76 entitled Circuses and Carnivals and renaming it Community Events Outdoor. And be it further resolved, proposed local law is annexed hereto as Exhibit A, incorporated herein as if recited verbatim, and the town board does direct that said amendments be spread across the records if they in fact had been read verbatim, and be it further resolved that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on April 25, 2023, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on May 15, 2023. Be it further resolved that this action to amend the town code is a type 2 action under New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and therefore no further environmental review is required, and be it further resolved that said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to the end of our public hearings. Ann?
Okay. Whereas the town board has received an application from George Brishock for the Lakeview Luxury Apartments requesting that the zoning for the westerly 10 plus or minus acres portion of the tax parcel number 606002 950800000 located at 2609-2627 South Road in the town of Poughkeepsie, consisting of approximately 14.9 acres, be changed from highway business to residential multifamily. And whereas the proposed zoning map amendment is attached hereto and incorporated herein, the town board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendment and does direct that the amendment be spread across record as if it, in fact, had been read verbatim. And whereas the change of zoning would involve a plus or minus 10 acres, and the action to amend the zoning map must be received under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. And whereas the town board has determined that the proposed amendment must be referred to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development and to the town planning board for review and recommendation. And whereas the town board has examined seeker regulations and has determined that the town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board, through its site plan review and approval authority under Chapter 210 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code, has extreme broad governmental powers to investigate the potential environmental effects associated with the application, and has the experience and capabilities necessary to conduct a thorough environmental assessment of the action. And whereas amending the zoning map requires a public hearing, now therefore be resolved that the town board has determined that the action should be the subject of a coordinated review because of the proposed use of the property will, among other permits and approvals, require a site plan approval by the town planning board. Therefore, the town board consents to the planning board acting as the lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law. And the town board refers this matter to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for a recommendation pursuant to GML 239-M. And the town board refers this matter to the town planning board for an advisory report pursuant to Town Code Section 210-154. And the town board hereby defers setting a public hearing on the proposed zoning map amendment until it has received recommendation and determination of significance pursuant to seeker from the planning board as lead agency. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on this one?
Yeah, I just want to say, I had met with the developer, or the, I believe now owner of the property, a number of times, and went through different variations of the plan. Where it started to where it is now, I think is a very good plan. I've driven by that property a million times and didn't realize it was there. Doreen mentions the water, I didn't realize the water was there. When you walk the property, you realize how nice it can be. As business highway, there's no real good uses that could be put there that would be beneficial. As residential, they're proposing 36 housing units there. The way it's laid out, it takes the water and makes it a feature. It will, I think it will enhance it, and it will preserve it, and it will make it significantly better. I'm sort of surprised that you could actually do that there, because like I said, I drove by it a million times, wouldn't notice. But when you put that with what's up top and then the apartments that the property owner currently has, it all fits together really nicely. And initially I had some reservations. I talked to Jay about it.
when I went down and looked at the apartment complex at that, what is it, Hudson Row?
Yeah.
That property owner has enhanced it. He's made improvements to all the apartments. When somebody moves out, they completely renovate. The way that looks now versus the way it used to look is significantly better. We have other apartment units in the town where they've dwindled a little bit, but this is, what he has is nice. I have some faith that they're gonna do something good with this. And I think it's a good fit because he wants to do this because he's got an investment in that area already. And the other thing is, he cuts lawn. He's there, like he's on site, like he's active in the management of the property. So I believe this will be a success. And like I said, I'm very pleased with the way this project is starting to develop at this point. So,
Well, I like the number count. They really kept it to a minimum.
I'll agree, even the way it's laid out, they're not like in a row, they're spaced out. It looks like you're actually in a nice complex, and the fact that it's across the street from Locust Grove, it's just not a complex. It all fits in and it ties into it, a quieter area of town with Pirate Canoe Club down the street and the other property and the vacant IBM property area. Actually, I think it fits in nice to what they did and the way they tied the lake or the wetland into it. Actually came out very nice.
yeah.
And just ask that Mike look into the question about the wetland and make sure we're not going there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie hereby accepts with regret the resignation of part-time clerk Madalena LeBron from the Town of Poughkeepsie Controller's Office effective May 5th, 2023. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? I'd just like to wish Madalena the best of luck in her new position. She got a full-time position somewhere else. She was very talented at what she did, so I wish her best of luck. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby acknowledge receipt of a request on behalf of Monarca Mexican Restaurant, 8482 Main Street, Poughkeepsie, New York, for a waiver of 30-day review period for a liquor license application. Be it further resolved, Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the town clerk forwarding a waiver of consent pursuant to the attached request. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Resolution number 8. Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application submitted by Bob Legacy on behalf of the Arlington Business Improvement District, and this does hereby grant approval to the Arlington Business Improvement District to hold a concert located at the War Memorial Parking Lot, 791 Main Street, Poughkeepsie, New York, on Friday, June 2nd, 2023, from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is in receipt of a certificate of liability insurance naming the town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the town board has received an application from South Hills Owner LLC requesting certain zoning text amendments to the South Hills Center District related in part to the proposed reuse of the empty Burlington Coat Factory building at the shops at South Hills as an extra space self-storage facility, tax parcel number 6158012979599000, located at 1875-1895 South Road in the town of Poughkeepsie, consisting of approximately 72.62 acres. And whereas the proposed zoning and text amendments, Exhibit B from the petition submitted with the application, is attached hereto and incorporated herein, and the town board does hereby waive verbatim reading of said amendment and does direct that said amendment be spread across the record as if it in fact had been read verbatim. And whereas proposed zoning text amendments must be reviewed under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA, and whereas the town board has determined that the proposed amendments must be referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development and to the Town Planning Board for review and recommendation. And whereas the town board has examined the SEQRA regulations and has determined that the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board, through its site plan and special use permit review and approval authority under Chapter 210 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code, has extremely broad governmental powers to investigate the potential environmental effects associated with the application, and has the experience and the capability necessary to conduct a thorough environmental assessment of the action. And whereas amending the zoning requires a public hearing. Now therefore be it resolved that number one, the town board has determined that the action should be subject to a coordinated review because the proposed use of the property will, among other permits and approvals, require site plan and special use permit approval by the town planning board. Therefore, the town board consents to the planning board acting as the lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law. And two, the town board refers this matter to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for a recommendation pursuant to GML 239-M. And number three, the town board refers this matter to the planning board for an advisory report pursuant to Town Code Section 210-154. And four, the town board hereby defers setting a public hearing on the proposed zoning text amendments until it has received a recommendation and a determination of significance pursuant to SEQA from the planning board as lead agency. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions on this one?
Yeah, I just don't think it's a good idea.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1.
That was fine,
Whereas the town board has received a recommendation from the Code Update Committee that a local law amending Chapter 210 entitled Zoning to include provisions for animal services should be considered for adoption. And whereas the proposed local law is annexed hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein as if recited verbatim, and the town board does direct that said local law be spread across the record as if in fact it had been read verbatim. Whereas this action to amend the town code is a type 1 action under New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and environmental assessment form is annexed here too. Whereas the town board has determined that the proposed code amendments must be referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development to the town planning board for review and recommendation. Whereas the amendments require a public hearing, now therefore be resolved that, one, the town board hereby states that because only the town board can consider and adopt changes to town code, that is the only involved agency, and the board hereby declares that it is the lead agency for purposes of coordinating the environmental review of this matter pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law. And two, the town board hereby sets a public hearing on the proposed local law for June 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may come to be heard in Town Hall, 1 of Arca Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. And three, the town board refers this matter to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for a recommendation pursuant to GML 239M. And four, the town board refers this matter to the planning board for an advisory report pursuant to Town Code Sections 210-154. And the town board, the town board directs the town clerk to notify the town clerks of each of the surrounding municipalities of the public hearing pursuant to GML 239NN. So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept the minutes of the following 2023 town board meetings, to wit, March 22, 2023, regular town board meeting, April 12th, 2023, committee of the whole, regular town board meeting, April 19, 2023, regular town board meeting, May 3rd, 2023, regular town board meeting. So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas by letter to the town of Poughkeepsie Town Board dated May 18th, 2023, Vassar College has offered to allow public use for the parking of a portion of Vassar College campus in support of the businesses, customers, and visitors to the Arlington area of the town of Poughkeepsie, the letter, a copy of which letter is annexed in Exhibit A hereto, and whereas the town acknowledges this gesture of the goodwill by Vassar College to the Poughkeepsie community. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby acknowledge and accept the letter with great appreciation. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Any questions?
No, it's just, this is a really great thing, and it's definitely gonna help with some of the parking issues that we have in the Arlington area, especially on the weekends.
Yeah, it's a little confusing at times, but I agree. Hopefully it'll help if you look at the dates and times, but it's a start.
Right by the,
Yeah, this
The
is
north
the,
lot. All those in favor?
turning
Aye.
that way.
no,
Opposed?
this is Raffle College.
Motion passes 7-0. 13A, whereas the developer of One Dutchess Complex, which is located on North Water Street and is partially in the town of Poughkeepsie, has positioned the town board consent under Transportation Corporation Law 116 et al. To form One Dutchess Sewer Works Corporation, Transportation Corporation, and Bell Corporation to provide for the receipt, collection, and transmission of wastewater generated in the town of Poughkeepsie and discharge from 1 Dutchess Building 1, Building J, Building K, Commercial Building, to pumps, pipes, and other improvements and appurtenances of the Transportation Corporation. Now therefore, be it resolved that having considered the request and the facts and issues presented, including the fact the Town Planning Board has approved the project, Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health has called for the formation of a Transportation Corporation to provide wastewater services in the petitioner's development of the 1 Dutchess complex was the subject of a full seeker review, including the wastewater pumping and improvements. This board finds that no further environmental review is required. To be it further resolved, the supervisor or his designee is authorized to execute a consent to the filing and formation of the corporation pursuant to Transportation Corporation Law, Chapter 116(1), and to execute all documents relating therefore on receipt from the applicant of an executed amended petition with documentation in form and substantial and substance acceptable to the supervisor, the town engineer, director of development, the sewer department, and attorney for the town, including those listed in Exhibit A. So moved.
Second.
We got a motion, a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1.
Resolution number 14,
No, 13B.
2B.
I got 13B, Bill. Whereas the developer of 1 Dutchess complex, which is located on North Water Street, partially in the town of Poughkeepsie, has petitioned the town board for consent under Transportation Corporation Law, Chapter 41 et al. To form 1 Dutchess Waterworks Corporation, Transportation Corporation, the corporation, to provide for the transportation of water in the town of Poughkeepsie to 1 Dutchess Building, 1 Building J, Building K, Commercial Building, via pump, pipes, and other improvements and appurtenances of the Transportation Corporation. Now therefore be resolved that having considered the request and the facts and issues presented, including the fact the town board has approved the project, the Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health has called for the formation of a Transportation Corporation to provide water services, and that petitioner's development of the 1 Dutchess complex was subject of a full seeker review, including water and sewer improvements. The board finds that no further environmental review is required. Be it further resolved, the supervisor or his designee is authorized to execute a consent to the filing and formation of the corporation pursuant to Transportation Corporation's Law, Chapter 41 et al., and to execute all documents relating thereto on receipt from the applicant of an executed amended petition with required surveys, reports, and documentation in form and substance acceptable to the supervisor, the town engineer, the director of development, the water department, and attorney for the town, including those listed as Exhibit A hereto. So moved.
Second.
Any motion, a second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1.
Resolution 14. Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie has adopted resolutions in relation to the creation of the Arlington Sewer Improvement Area, number 2, regarding the construction of certain sewer improvements, including the replacement of the existing Speck and Kill pump station pursuant to a DEC consent order. And whereas the town has been advised that a WIIA grant of $1,521,568.15 is available through the Environmental Facilities Corporation, and that a New York State Department of Environmental Conservation WQIP grant of $4,428,180 may also be available. And whereas the town has received authorization from the New York State Controller's Office to form the Hudson Heritage Sewer District located on the former Hudson River Psychiatric Center campus, now known as the Hudson Heritage Project, the cost of which is expected to be covered by the Environmental Facilities Corporation bonds and grants of $6,068,270 and a developer's contribution of $5,233,730. Whereas, in order to qualify for Environmental Facilities Corporation funding for architectural and/or engineering services at the above projects, the town issued a request for qualifications for them, and thereafter evaluated each application received and intends to further proceed pursuant to the Environmental Facilities Corporation regulations. Now therefore, be it resolved that the supervisor or his designee is authorized to designate and first enter into contract negotiations with the most highly qualified candidate for architectural engineering services for the town of Poughkeepsie, which has been determined to be CPL Architecture and Engineering, and Be it further resolved that in the event a contract cannot be negotiated with the most highly qualified candidate, the supervisor or his designee is authorized to proceed with the contract negotiations in order of qualification of the following firms listed here alphabetically: CT Mail Associates, MJ Engineering and Land Surveying PC, and Ty and Bond Inc. And be it further resolved that because the Sewer Improvement Area 2 project, Hudson Heritage Project, have each been the subject of an environmental review, with the Sewer Improvement Area being a Type 2 action and the Hudson Heritage Project being a Type 1 action, for which a finding statement has been adopted. No further seeker review is required. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any questions? What I will say is, now any funding we get through the EFC, we have to go out through this process, and it's good for 3 years. We went out for a request for qualifications. We got, I think, 7 or 8, and we interviewed these last 4, and we graded them all. And this is what we ended up with. Now we have to go and work on getting a contract with CPL. If we can't get a contract with CPL, we'll work on CT Mail next, MJ, and then PC. That's how they're graded, so we'll work our way down the list. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby grant special consent to the following items to wit. Number 1, authorize town clerk to advertise for bid for police department cleaning services. Number 2, ratify, authorize commencing lawsuit, retain attorney, Town versus South Road Hospitality LLC, Etal, Palisades Estates EOM Etal versus County of Rockland Etal. Number 3, approve annual Joseph Bill Cruz Memorial Run. Be it further resolved that upon the objection of any member of the town board, an item may be removed from the list and voted on separately. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the police chief, Cavalieri, has advised that regular cleaning of the police department facility is required, that efforts to recruit an employee have been unsuccessful, and the town employee, Guy Lashcombe, has been covering the police department facility cleaning on an interim basis in addition to his regular duties. Now therefore, be it resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby authorize town clerk Salvatore and Chief Cavalieri to advertise for bids for contracts for interior cleaning services at the town's police department facility, not including the court facility, at 19 Tucker Drive on a 7-day-a-week basis, including holidays, with the work to be performed between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., subject to the execution of a contract in the form acceptable to the chief and supervisor, which includes insurance, indemnification, prevailing wage, performance, and security, and other requirements acceptable to them. Bids will be received at the town clerk's office, 1 Overocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, only until 11 a.m. on June 15, 2023, when all bids will be opened and read aloud publicly. A mandatory pre-bid meeting and walkthrough will be held at the police department facility, 19 Tucker Drive, on June 9, 2023 at 10 a.m. The town board anticipates making an award of a contract at its June 21st, 2023 meeting. The town reserves the right to reject any and all bids in the best interest of the town. The execution of this service contract is a Type 2 action requiring no seeker review. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any questions? Just to let people know, we tried cleaners and janitors, both of them, to no avail. So the city of Poughkeepsie uses a cleaning service, so we're going to give it that route. But we also make sure when we do it that there's an out clause. If we do find a capable candidate that we can find out is cost effective, we can change the contract. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas on May 19, 2023, the town of Poughkeepsie commenced a lawsuit entitled Town of Poughkeepsie versus South Road Hospitality LLC, DBA Red Roof Plus, et al., index number 2023-51688, seeking to enjoin 2 local hotels from participating in the provisions of housing and related services as an illegal zoning change use, which sued on May 22, 2023, was removed by the defendants to the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. And whereas on May 23rd, 2023, a separate suit was brought in the Southern District of New York against the town and multiple municipalities and officials by several plaintiffs relating to the provisions of those services, Palisades Estates EOM LLC et al. Versus County of Rockland, New York et al. 723 CV 04215, and whereas the town has reported both of these actions to its insurance carrier and requested the provision of defense and indemnity, now therefore be it resolved that the filing of the May 19, 2023 suit is hereby ratified, and pending the appointment of a carrier assigned counsel, the supervisor is assigned to retain counsel to represent the town's interests in both matters with the attorneys for the town, Vanderwater and Vanderwater LLP. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
I'll be filing not an appearance, but accepting the papers so it can get to the carrier, hopefully be picked up for coverage.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie has heretofore received an application from Mark Sanfilippo on behalf of Mid Hudson Road Runners Club to hold the annual Joseph Bill Cruz Memorial Run to be held on June 3rd, 2023. And be further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application for said run, and that the town clerk is in receipt of a certificate of liability insurance naming the Town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured. So moved.
Second.
Any motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Make a motion to suspend the rules for any item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I ask anybody that speaks to please keep it to 3 minutes. Is there anybody? Going once, going twice. If not, motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?